This video is sponsored by Arduino, and it's an advert for the new Arduino UNO Q, which is really interesting because it's dual brain. As well as being a microcontroller, it's also a single board computer running Debian Linux. That means it's possible to build all sorts of exciting projects like using AI voice and vision detection models, host web servers, and all the things you'd normally do on a single board computer, but you can also use the microcontroller as before to program with normal Arduino code for real-time control of hardware. And all of this is in one board, so you can share variables and data between its two brains really easily. The board features an STM32 microcontroller, and on the other side is a Qualcomm QRB2210, which runs the Linux side of things. The UNO Q has built-in storage, high-speed headers, and also a quick connector, and it's also Arduino UNO form factor, so all those existing shields still fit on the normal top-side connectors. It also has USB-C, so using a hub you can attach a monitor, keyboard and mouse, and also webcams or other devices. The UNO Q runs upstream Debian Linux, so you can still use it like a computer with a normal desktop environment. AppLab is the new tool for writing code, which puts your Arduino code in the same place as the Python code or HTML and so on. And you can run AppLab on the Linux desktop on the UNO Q, or with a PC app connected over USB or even wirelessly. Now, if you've written Arduino code before, you'll be used to using libraries, which are pre-built bits of code. Often libraries are shipped with sensors and other hardware and so on, so you can easily use them and access their data. I've also used the PID library a lot, for instance, to make balancing vehicles, and many other libraries, including the ODrive library to drive brushless motors over CAN bus. Now, using AI models can sometimes be quite hard, so there's a new solution to this called bricks. Bricks are also pre-built bits of code containing Python APIs that make using AI models, accessing databases, or even the weather forecast very easy. Once you've added a brick to your project, you can use the Arduino router bridge library to share the data between the Linux side and the Arduino sketch on the microcontroller. Personally, I'm much more comfortable with Arduino code than anything else, so using bricks makes using an AI model very easy for me. Now, Arduino have asked me to build something to demonstrate the new Arduino UNO Q and also take it to the launch event in Italy. The event's taking place in the National Motor Museum in Turin, so what could I build for that? Yes, it's a car. When this launches, you'll also be able to train your own AI models for free using the Edge Impulse Cloud and deploy those back to the UNO Q and use them in your own project. But I'm building this several weeks before the launch, so I don't have access to that feature yet, although there are several good AI models already on the board, including a face detection example which is part of the object detection brick. And this all runs locally on the board, so no cloud required once you have the AI model, and just to let you know that the Qualcomm QRB2210 does all this while consuming about 1.2 watts of power, so it doesn't even have a heatsink on it. I'm going to use the face detection example to drive the project, but first of all, I better build a car that I can ship to Italy. I'm 3D printing the wheels for my car so that I can make them a custom size, and I can also make a place to attach a pulley so I don't have to key the pulley to the axle and we never get any slip. I'm also printing the tyres in Polyflex TPU 90, so that stuff's really flexible, and that means I can get the tyres on the hubs. So I've left these ridges so they key in okay, and I've put a similar raised part on the wheel hub, and that means that I can simply just push the tyre over. It's a little bit stretchy but not too much, and that means that it'll push down and it'll stay on and hopefully never work its way off as I drive the car around. I printed the pulley with a 0.5mm nozzle so that it's actually really accurate. It's quite a snug fit, but I am going to glue that on, and that means that it won't slip later and confuse me when I try and sort out the drivetrain. So let's just make sure that's fitted properly. We're going to need some bearings for these wheels, so again I've made a shim with a finer nozzle, and then we can put a bearing in there, and these are simply bearings, 90 by 70 by 10mm bearings, and they're quite big diameter, so once they're fitted that means that we've got lots of circumference on them, and we've got really free moving wheels. And these are the front wheels, so we want them just to idle. So we've got four wheels, but now we need a chassis. So I was going to build the chassis out of carbon fibre tubes, but then I had a look at the price of carbon fibre tubes, and I realised that there's a cheaper alternative, which is a GRP tube, which is just basically fibreglass, It doesn't need to fly, so we don't need the lightness of carbon fibre. These are incredibly rigid, they're not that heavy, and it's going to be on the ground anyway. So now we can make the chassis that's really modular out of these and some 3D prints. I need to make this easy to disassemble so that we can ship it in boxes. So I'm making these 3D prints again with a 1.2mm nozzle, and these are going to clamp around the tubes and then they're going to bolt up, and you can see the holes I've made in them there so we can get some bolts in and put nuts on the other side. And this is all made with Polymax PLA, so it should be nice and tough. So pretty easy to see what I'm going for here. The tubes go in the middle and they clamp up, and then I'll put bolts for all of those holes. But for now I need to make my tubes the right length. I've ordered these in 1 metre lengths, which are fine for the length of the car, but crosswise we need about 600mm. So I've made this clamp out of a 3D print which helps me align the saw blade, and I can just hacksaw straight through them, and that leaves me with a square cut and a very clean edge. This is one of the junctions at the back corner, which has tubes going all the way through and some which go across to the other side. And that's the whole back, and then these tubes go up towards the front. The front has some extra long pieces because we need to put the steering on there and some sort of rack to drive it. But for now I'm just going to bolt all these down to get the main structure, and I'm just using some lock nuts there and some studding and some long bolts where they're long enough to reach all the way through. So that makes up the entire chassis. So here's the chassis, which is quite significant. I don't know if that weighs maybe 15 kilograms or something. It's a bit overkill really. I think we probably could have got away with less tubes, maybe one or thinner ones instead of these 3 massive ones everywhere. But at least it's going to be super strong. So let's put some wheels on. So I've got another clamp piece, and that's going to go on the outside. There's an axle hole in it, and I've got a clamp for the inside with a corresponding axle hole, and then obviously 2 channels for 2 pipes to go through. These are going to go on each side of the car to hold the drive wheels, and on the other side we have 2 channels which are going to hold a motor. I'm using Turning G Aerodrive 6374 149 kV brushless motors. Those are mounted on a metal plate, and that slots into the channel so I can slide it away from where the axle is to tension the belt against the wheel. So of course there's one of those on each side, and there's a big axle going all the way through, which is a piece of 20mm studding, so I can unbolt it easily for transport. And of course my motor has a belt straight onto the pulley on the wheel. The only thing I forgot was to check the clearance, so it rubs on the corners of the mounts. But those 1.2mm nozzle prints are more than strong enough to have the corners cut off, so now there's lots of clearance. And I can just tension the motor up there with a bolt into a print, and we can get really good belt tension so that the belt never skips. Time for the mounts for the steering wheels. So I've made these mounts that have simply bearings 85/65 by 10 bearings, and those fit into these round things which are bolted again through the whole assembly, and that's going to allow me with a shim with a square hole to put in some 40/40 extrusion. These have got big L brackets, so that should be more than strong enough to support the wheel on a stub axle and hold my mass. We need something to hold a steering column, which is going to be electric, so I've got another bearing there inserted into a plate, and that again is bolted through the whole chassis. I've got some threaded inserts which are melted into that top part, and a top plate with another bearing which we can just bolt down. Instead of a steering wheel, there's a steering gear, because the whole thing has to be electronically actuated. Right, so just turn this upright so it's easier to see what's going on. We've now got these levers which are attached to the stub axles so that we can push the stub axles and steer the wheels. And I've got this gear in the middle that's attached to another bit of 40/40 extrusion on those 2 bearings on those plates. So that is going to push those stub axles and those levers, and that's going to maintain our Ackermann steering. So this is actually a gear, and it's going to need 2 motors so we can drive it, and then we can put the linkages in. You can read about Ackermann steering geometry on Wikipedia, but basically it means the inside wheel makes a tighter turn than the outside one because that radius is smaller. And to do that, we align those levers at the front with a back axle, and everything should be good. And I've done exactly the same thing in my design. To drive that gear, we've got 2 motors, which are Gimson Robotics gearhead motors with keyed shafts on, and as usual I've got a 3D printed gear with a keyway and a key and a grub screw. So those gears mesh quite well. Feels nice and tight. The motors are 20-to-1, so they're quite back drivable, but I've got 2 of them, mainly so if one of the little gears breaks, I've still got another one, but also we've got twice as much force. So let's power those motors up. I've got a speed controller living down here, which you might recognise from another project. Let's power that up. Right. Right, okay, how strong is this? Oh, okay, that's going to be more than strong enough. And how fast does it go if we turn this up full speed? Yep, that's going to be more than responsive enough for the steering. But we need to close the loop and turn that all into one big servo we can control smoothly. So I've got a potentiometer, and that fits onto a little thing which has got one of those CNC adapters, so it doesn't put too much load on the pot shaft, and that's going to screw in right there. So that's fitted to the bottom of the 4040 on that steering column with the steering gear on the top. And that allows me to measure the position that the steering's in, and then we can drive the motors to match the position we want, and we'll know where it is. And I have made a cover so I don't smash it while driving. Power distribution looks like a big 500 amp contactor, which is a big relay to turn everything off, and everything's powered from a 6S 24 volt LiPo, and that's the emergency stop. I'm using some VESCs, which are skateboard ESCs, to drive both of those motors on each side, and there's all my power distribution. And I've got an electronics enclosure that pops in the top where the UNO Q is going to live. The electronic speed controllers take a servo PWM signal we can drive from any Arduino, so I'm just using a servo tester there, just to check that those wheels work, or at least one of them. And driving just with one wheel powers me along absolutely fine. But there's no more time to work on it, because it's got to ship to Italy a week before I go on a plane, and then I'm going to go there and finish the whole job. I'm now in Turin, at the National Motor Museum, where they had all sorts of exhibits, including a car made from Leonardo da Vinci's design. The history is that Fiat was founded in Turin in 1899, and the National Motor Show started in 1900, so that's why there's a bit of a motor connection. They had lots of cars in there, including lots of old stuff, some Italian Ferraris, and everything wouldn't be complete, of course, without a DeLorean. They also had some sort of medieval car made of wood, which I think was powered by steam. All my boxes got there in one piece, with no damage, so now it's time to unpack it and assemble my own car in the Turin Motor Museum. My UNO Q is fitted and up and running, and I've got a screen which is actually running the Linux desktop with a USB-C to HDMI adapter. So to start with, I'm calibrating the steering with a joystick just so I can close that loop and get everything running, and that seems to be more than responsive enough, at least to drive manually. The back wheels also work, and that's just joystick controlled, and that's using the ESCs and just the servo library from the Arduino. It's time to fit the webcam, so I've got this flexible stalk clamped on the front, and that's got just a USB webcam on, and now I've got the face tracking example working. So you'll notice that we've got some people in the background that are getting detected. We don't want that to send the steering haywire, so because I've got the data in an Arduino sketch using the Arduino router bridge, I can just filter that out. So I'm just saying if the detection width is smaller than 100 pixels, then don't do anything, and that was really easy in Arduino code. So now I can use that variable instead of my joystick, and I can steer the steering. I'm using some heavy motion filtering because we're only getting about 3 or 4 frames a second, but I understand there is going to be a more optimised face tracking model that will be lower latency and higher frame rate. So now it's time to go for a drive. And we're actually hosting the interface with the face detection on the UNO Q as a web server, and I'm viewing that over Wi-Fi on my laptop. I have my own little area with a giant image of an UNO Q to display my car in, and then 200 to 300 people turned up, which included the industry and also the press, and then they invited me on stage.
Please welcome on stage from the UK, James Bruton. Hello. Hey James. Welcome, thank you so much for being here.
So I got to talk about some of my projects that I've done, of course, with Arduinos. In fact, the ATAT had 6 Arduinos in it. The ball bike, also got to talk about that. Some of the other funny bikes, including the screw bike. And of course, I got to talk about the car, and you can check out the entire live stream, which is now archived in the Arduino YouTube channel right now. There were lots of other exhibits that were interactive using Arduino, including these fighting robots, also some mechanism wheel robots that move in any direction, and of course some AI models running on the UNO Q, including this slot car track that tracks the cars and measures the lap time and works out when you've crashed. This is a voice control example using the AI voice recognition example that turns things on when it hears certain prompts. But everyone really wanted to see the car working, and Arduino really wanted me to drive it at the event, so I decided that we'll just drive it around among the 200 or 300 people. I did have a spotter, which is the guy in the white shirt there, moving people out of the way. A lot of people were looking into their phones, either filming me or looking up the spec of the Arduino UNO Q, I expect. Several people weren't paying attention. I did have the throttle on a joystick, but the steering is activated by the AI Vision face tracking model. So you can see me leaning left and right there to steer the wheels, and it doesn't look too bad. It was a bit of a tight space. Probably should have made a vehicle with a tighter turning circle, possibly something omnidirectional so I could have just moved sideways out of people's way. But in the end it seemed to go down quite well, and everyone seemed to enjoy it. Yep, I did manage to reverse it back into my little stand in the end. I think a good upgrade for this would be facial expression recognition to actually drive the throttle, but that's something we'll have to consider in the future.